beyond. Hi, Swagat. Hi, Arshri. Hello, everyone, and welcome.
Hey everyone.
All right. So, before we get started, I would like to share with everyone that the format of our coffee is very simple. We'll get started, spend about 20-25 minutes with some of the top pressing topics, and post that, we'll open the forum for everyone to share their questions, whatever the struggles or challenges they might be facing in their journey. And during this discussion, everybody, please feel free to share your questions, raise your hand, come on camera, or if you don't feel like, just put your questions in the chat box, and that's how we will get started. And we will definitely try to answer all your questions as much as possible. But for some reason, if you're not able to reach out to your questions, I would request you to schedule a profile building call with one of our experts, where you can get a one-to-one, undivided attention, and it can probably help you even better to answer and resolve your queries to get you started. All right. So without further ado, I would invite our guests tonight, Anushree and Swagat, to introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you. I could go first. I hope I'm audible. If I'm not, please
Yes,
pardon
yes,
me.
Anushree. you are.
I'm Anushree. Okay, perfect. So I'm Anushree. I am currently in IEFT Business School, and it's a very sad news that it's almost ending in the next 6-7 months. Probably the best decision I made. To give a little bit of context, I come from a background in tech, in marketing and GTM strategy. I did consulting for the summer, and I'm looking forward to do something similar, like in internal strategy or consulting for full time as well, but within UK and Europe. So very shortly, that's me, but I'm happy to answer any more questions that anybody might have. I'm sure you do, with regards to my journey and how I landed up here. Yeah.
No, I
Over to
think
you,
it's a
Sagar.
short but great introduction, and I'm sure a lot of our audience would like to get into consulting and a similar space. So I'm sure they have a lot of
Yeah,
questions for you as well. Please go
sure,
ahead, Swagat.
sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
First of all, it's great being on the other side of the table. My name is Swagat. I'm currently pursuing my MBA at HEC Paris. So before my MBA, I worked for financial services on the financial services side for 3 years for Fidelity Investments, and then I moved to JP Morgan Asset Management, working there for 2 years. Apart from that, I ran a social impact startup for 3.5 years, and I had a short stint at a venture capital firm, early stage VC firm, for nearly 5 months. So yeah, looking forward to the session. I worked with MBA and beyond and was able to convert few schools. And yeah, looking forward to the session and answering all your questions.
I think that's what makes this sessions very candid and very uh, you know very insightful. That, as you mentioned, that you are now on the other side of the table, right? A lot of our applicants, a lot of our viewers want to understand what really works for you in your journey, right? What are the challenges? And we will try and get into some of these questions, right? So as we promised, we'll try to address some of the topics upfront, and then we'll open up the floor for our audience questions. So yes, at any point of time, if you guys feel like sharing your questions, asking anything, please feel free to do that. So honestly, I'm going to start with you, right? So I want to understand, how does the criteria and dynamics of IESE Business School, admissions process reflect your school's unique values and missions, right?
Yeah. No, sure. Very happy to take on that question, because I think that ESA is, I think, one of the few schools. So I did, when I was trying to get into, like, when I was on the other side of the table, I think I did my research very well in speaking mainly to the outcomes and especially to the students. I think the students are the biggest reflection of what a school is all about. So I think when you talk about unique culture and unique values that translate into the admission, I think one of the key things is they really look for collaboration from the very first conversation you've had. So, where I spoke to, like, I think this story, anybody who's spoken to me knows this, that I've spoken to 10 people who were not connected to each other. 3 were alumni, 3 were current students, 3 were second year students. and some were deferred admissions. And they all somehow had the same thing to say about the school, just in their own language. So it was primarily collaboration, diversity, but a lot of space that ESA affords you to be able to learn. So I didn't see that. I mean, the reason I am in here is because that space that it allowed me, that, hey, you come with X, Y, but I will help you get Z, is, I think, a culture that they focus on, that they really want. They don't want finished products. They don't want to take students who've done everything and they're just getting a degree for the sake of it, and they're very serious about it. If you speak to the outcome, you'll understand it. Which is why when you get to the school, you understand the reason behind it having such a big stress and emphasis on academic excellence, that your whole first year is very rigorous compared to any other schools. I have friends all across Europe, and there's a reason why they test that out, that how much are you willing to put in to be able to learn? Because some people are coming with a break, some people are coming to switch jobs, to switch functions or to countries, but that learning capacity is something that they really focus on. For them, they feel that once you learn, we're really anyway prepping you for the world outside. So it's easy for you to get a job. So if you're treating this as a transaction, which often I did on the other side of the, being on the other side of the table, and it's very common to do it, that, hey, I want to do an MBA and I'm going to get a job that pays me really high money and then I'm done. It's not going to work mostly. I'm sure about this. Now being on the other side, I know. So I think with ESA, I think the focus has always been on collaboration, culture, and diversity, but also, excessive emphasis on your learning capability. And they really test that out. And that translates to your admission essay, how many times you interact with them, that matters. And of course, your interview process. Everything is very coherent. So if they don't see that you're not speaking the same language as you've written in your application, I have heard of many cases, where they're not very accepting of your profile because they know that the two don't make sense together. So which is why I feel, I'm sorry, this is what sustainability does. It's an automatic light and it keeps going off. But yeah, I think coming back to those three things, I think they're very clear in my, route to admission to ESA, and I can vouch for it because I'm in the school about to pass out in the next 6 months, and at no point did I feel these three things changed for me. So I'll still say that.
Thank you, Anushri. I think you have highlighted something very important, right? Showing collaboration during this exercise, right? Not after you have gone in admit. So how one could ask you, how do you showcase these values, right, in that process, right?
Yeah.
Were you aware of these values and you prepared for them, or was this inherent in your nature?
As easy as it is to say that, yes, sure, it was inherent in my nature on the kind of jobs I did, but that's where I think my research really played into, really played on the positive side, because when I spoke to those 10 people, I really put in the effort to connect with the 10 people. Sometimes we don't, because it's often very hard to connect with so many people. And the funny thing was that at ESA, when I reached out to those 10 people, I didn't reach out to the 11th one because I got a response from all the 10. Sometimes people don't come back to you. So that kind of immediately showed me, and that they also believe in this. So when today a fellow ESA aspirant actually reaches out to me, my response is almost immediate. If I'm on my call, if I'm on my phone, it's almost an immediate response. So I think the way to show these is also through mainly your conversation. Second, if you are getting in touch with the admissions committee, which I do recommend, especially for ESA or for any other school, that it really works, it really helps, because they know that your application is going to come in. I think those are the small pieces of interaction where you are able to show the kind of teamwork you've done, or the kind of work you've done that will help you get adjusted to 60 nationalities sitting right next to you. And when you're working with a team of 9 and you have 8 people from all over the world, and every team has an Indian by default, because that's how the number is. But that's very important for them to test, because you see teams falling apart, you see teams, becoming the best of friends, you see so many things, but the school needs to know that you will be able to take that pressure. You will be okay if your team's not doing so well with you in the first month, versus you will be very okay if you are like, you're like the best team, you end up being the best of friends. So they want to test you out in both the pressure points. And these are all sounding like very story-like, I'm sure, but trust me, when you get to that application stage and when you're there, like, you really do understand that the school cares about these things. And you can show them in interactions. And of course, your application has to show each and every possible, whatever essay they're asking you, it has to show that what you did and how does that translate into a collaborative nature at work. Because your whole first year is that rigorous because you're working in a team, and that the team is the only part that's helping you make it less rigorous. So yeah, so I think I would say that.
All right, thank you, Nusri. I think that's quite insightful. And the way you're bringing your story, I think it clearly showcases the kind of impact I see business school has made on you, right? Uh, I think for me, it's very impressive your story. Uh, so Swagat, I want to switch back to you. Want to understand what really distinguishes HEC Paris MBA admissions from other leading business school. Now, you may have also researched other schools in your process, and as you mentioned, you got admissions from other business schools, right? So you must have closely watched some of these other business schools as well. Would you like to share some? Uh,
Yes. So before diving deeper into that, we need to understand, how the entire HEC MBA program is structured. The duration of program is 16 months. So one good thing is like it's the ideal duration, like it's not a fast-paced, accelerated program like INSEAD, which is 10 months, very rigorous, which does not give you enough time to make that career switch. Because if you're working, let's say, let's say you are working in a startup, you want to get into private equity. 10 months is not a period where you can explore, try out an internship, and then get into private equity. And which is not too big a program like a US schools, like 24 months program, where you are out of workforce for a longer time. So that is one aspect of it. Second is at HEC, it's a very small cohort that comes in. It's 160 for September and around 80, 90 odd folks getting in Jan intake. So totally around 250 odd, 300 folks getting into each year at HEC. It's a smaller intake where you form that close-knitted community. Again, like Anushri pointed out, you have people from 50 odd nationalities sitting together with you, people who have done a lot of things in their pre-MBA phase. So that's the value add that you get. How the MBA is different, in the HEC MBA structure, the first two terms are like compulsory programs, but the term 3 and term 4 is where you can actually tailor the MBA as per your requirements. Like in my case, in my term 3, I'll do a certification on the private equity and venture capital side with Bain Capital. That's where I'll get an opportunity to work directly with Bain Capital on a live project. So that's where you can actually tailor your MBA. You can go for exchange programs, you can take electives. So that's where you can actually tailor the MBA program. And the duration of the MBA is what makes it very, very unique and different. It's 16 months between 10 months program, which INSEAD has, and a 24 months program, which US schools have.
Understood. So I think that's very insightful, Swagat. But we also want to understand that we think there has been a significant difference in the admission process at HEC and the other schools that we have experienced as well.
Not really. If you look at any of the schools, US schools or top schools in Europe as well, what they require is like your pre-MBA experience, why you want to join that school, will that school help you get into that post-MBA job that you're looking for, and the post-MBA aspirations that you have, whether the story is coherent or not. If you have that in place, it's very easy to get into any of the schools that you're looking for. That's what is required out of the entire thing, and that's what is essential for all the schools. It's not solely for HEC or ESA or LBS. It's for every school out there.
All right. So if you have to break down, the three criterias or the components of HEC Paris uh, admission process, right? What would you emphasize on?
Yes. So first one is they look for your professional experience. That is very, very important. Whether you can take that pressure during the MBA program. That's where if you have some strong brand name associated with your resume, that helps you a lot. Second, the academic aspect of it. they're like the previous, like we have a lot of chartered accountants, a lot of doctors in our cohort. So they bring in that diversity factor because it's a small class of 160. So that's where they need to get in people with diverse experience. Uh, Apart from that, you have five essays. The essays are INSEAD has seven essays, so HEC has five. All the European schools, they tend to have good amount of essays. It's not like US schools, like where it's fairly smaller application process. I mean, the applications are not too big. So that is what you have five essays, but everything is connected. I mean, what is there on your resume versus what you mention on your essays. So everything needs to be coherent and it needs to show that you are employable. The school can employ you. The school can help you get that next job that you're looking for. So that is what is essential. Once you are done through that, your application process, then there is a pre-selection process where a jury sits and they select you for the interview process. In the interview stage, you go through two interviews. Those are fairly simple alumni interviews. But what is unique about this interview process is it's not just the alums asking you a question. You have to prepare a presentation, 10 minutes presentation for both the interviews. And you need to walk the alum through that presentation. Then 10 minutes, it can be of any topic of your choice. But you need to show deep passion for that presentation. So that is something which is very, very unique, which other schools do not have in the entire process. You need to prepare a presentation, plus you have other questions that the alum tend to ask you. So yeah, it's fairly simple. Your resume, your five essays, your professional experience, your academic experience, then your two recommendation letter. Apart from that, you go through two interviews if you are selected for the interview process.
All right. So I think thank you so much for breaking that down, Swagat. Um, Honestly, do you want to maybe have a take on how this process looks different for ESC, right? And maybe share some ideas with regards to how an applicant can actually get into that mode of applying for the rounds which they are targeting.
Sure. Sure. I think I'm just touching upon what Saurabh said, that it's very similar. I do agree. Like, I think that's something I keep telling people, that use the fact that the US and the European applications are different and use it to your advantage when you're coming to Europe, because it allows you a lot of space and a lot of space to actually tell your story. So all these five essays might be extremely rigorous when you're doing it, because you have to fit in your life in those. But it is three essays that ESA offers, that the ESA expects you to write. I think it's mostly, again, covering those three top things that I spoke about. That's, culture, diversity, your international experience, collaboration, but your learning capacity as well. But and in those three essays, I think the idea is to, I had a question. I need to check what the question is, probably this term, but I had a question which probably asked me as to, who inspires me, and it has no connection potentially. It did not particularly demand me to write about some corporate, let's say corporate leader. But if you're not doing that, then that is again a space for you to be able to talk about that other parts of your life and why that leader inspires you. And instead of utilizing your additional interest space in your resume. So I think in terms of what is needed is very similar. Like your resume, get your resume checked. Work with people to understand how much your resume translates into the STAR format. They are particular about that. They wouldn't, of course, they will teach you more about it when you're in school. But also in your three essays, I think what the key thing they look for is coherence. Like, does it really fit well with what your resume says? Because you technically cannot lie in your resume and you cannot change what you have done. But does your story fit in with what you have done? And does your story ahead fit in with what you want to do? And can ESA really give you what you want? Because I think if ESA feels that they cannot offer you what you're looking for, although you might be a 750 at this point, and you might have you might have worked at already a consulting firm, and let's say have the best, you have the most conventional and profile of all of it, you still don't get it. you know the reason why. So probably because when you want to make a cut into, I don't know, maybe you want to go to Mexico and then, work a job there. And maybe, can ESA help you? ESA can definitely help you. ESA has a big bunch of people from Latin America. But the idea is to be able to, remain coherent in those essays, have a very clean resume, because I would not take me for a job if I saw my resume before the MBA, although I was working good jobs. So I think it's very important to know that to what extent, what does a clean resume really mean? And ensure that when this is of course after the interview invite, but it's important that you are able to translate all of that when you're speaking to somebody. Another thing that I would say definitely I feel worked in my favor, which might not everybody will have a chance to do. I don't know how far everyone is to their application. Are you applying this year? Are you applying next year? But there's a space at the SA website where you actually click and get your profile evaluated. And not sometimes, most of the times, especially if you're from India, there's an Indian admissions director. So that person will get back to you. Riddhi is currently Riddhi Gilani. Riddhi is the one who, heads the admissions director, and that person will get back to you, and you might have a short pre-interview if they find your profile is fitting. This could be without a score as well, or with a score. And if you can have that conversation, and if that is a positive response, you can almost be very sure that this is going to be translated into, unless you really, really do something bizarre in the interview, it's very likely that they will, offer you that much, that they will offer you the place to be part of that cohort. So I think do that. I think that really worked in my favor, and it also helped me understand how I should really treat the interview, because I had a mix of things. I knew what my experience was. I knew what I was bringing to the table. My scores weren't that high, to be very fair, but I knew that had nothing to do with what I wanted to do, and that will never come in between. And that had to be, I think, kept across on the table for the SA AdCom, for them to know before my application came in, that this is a little beyond the score. We have to look at this application beyond the score. And that onus was on me, and nobody could help me do that other than me. So I think I would definitely suggest that get in touch with them, and I would definitely suggest that if it's possible, do have a conversation with them. But irrespective, it's not like candidates who haven't had that didn't have a success rate. It's more than, I think maybe 60%, 70% of the batch did not speak. So it's absolutely fine if you don't. But I think these are the things that work for me, so I can only speak for myself.
Honestly, thank you for sharing that. But I want to understand, you reached out, you got a positive response. What if somebody don't get a positive response? Do they still have, the chance to finally apply and get an admit, or does that impact in any way?
No, 100%. Because see, I think the idea is to be able to identify on LinkedIn. All the admissions director are all on LinkedIn and their website. It's very clear who is handling the admissions for which region. So if you are an Indian based out of the UK, then you have a different admissions director potentially. And once you know that, you can always get in touch to get more feedback as to why that was more negative, and why that they did not give you a positive response. Because 9 out of 10 times they'll give you a positive response. But if you're a really good profile, they set up a pre-interview with you. It's hard, sometimes even alumni take that because you have so much of demand. So do not if you have a negative response, then you ask for feedback and you work on that. And if you think you have enough time to work on that, maybe it's the score, maybe it's the years of experience, maybe it's maybe you wrote something absolutely wrong on the post-MBA goal that ESA has no connection to, and nobody has ever gotten into that. So all of that can play into the factors. So I think the idea is to be able to do that.
Right.
In fact, we have something very similar for HEC as well. You can get your profile evaluated without a test score. So that's where they evaluate your profile, tell you whether you are a right fit for the school. And basically before applying, you get your profile evaluated, and that's a good way to save that 200 euros that you end up paying for the application process. And you understand that these are the areas which you need to work on before even applying to the school. So we have very similar process at HEC as well.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think this is something which every applicant can take benefit of, because this does not keep you at any disadvantage. In fact, it's only gives you the right kind of feedback which you can then obviously work on and get back the better profile. All right, so I would like to invite our audience at this stage. If anybody has any questions, you can raise your hand, you can switch on your camera, ask your questions, or you can share that in the chat box, and we would love to take that. All right. In the meanwhile, I want to understand, Swagat, from you, as Anushree was talking about, the values uh, which a school prefers, right? In HEC Paris scenario, what kind of values have you seen which they really give importance to, and how can one really build for them? I mean, these values, either you have them or you may not, right? So how do you bring them into your story? How do you present that?
Yes. So like I said, since it's a smaller cohort, what they give preference to is like what unique value do you add to that cohort? Like they focus on diversity per se. So that is one aspect. Second, since you tend to, like Anushri pointed out, you tend to work in smaller groups and all the members are from different nationality. That's where they wanted to understand whether you can collaborate with them, whether you can work on a project with them without any issues. So that's where they focus on. Apart from that, another thing is like what you have done outside your work. It's like if you focus just on academics or just on our work, so that's something which they do not prefer. They want to see like what you have done outside the work. That is something which they give a lot of preference to. For that matter, like in my cohort, I have a guy who runs one of South Africa's top football club. He's the chairman of that. So you have people like that in your cohort. So which makes it very, very diverse. You sit with them in a class. So they want to understand whether you can gel well with these kind of people and work on projects together.
So basically, a rounded personality is what they're looking for,
Yes, yes,
uh,
yeah.
and your story needs to reflect.
Yes, everything in your story, like the essays out there, the resume, what you have done in your pre-MBA phase, why do you want to join HEC, and whether HEC will be able to help you get that into that next job out there. Everything needs to be coherent, and that will give them that sense of relief that this guy can get into that job that he's looking for.
All right. All right, so we have a couple of questions from audience. Karthik wants to understand, is HEC Paris advisable for consultancy companies or finance companies?
So all the top MBB for the top MBBs plus all other consulting firms are hiring from HEC. In fact, I have an interview with Bain in 2 weeks' time. So they do hire for internships and they do hire for full-time jobs. Apart from MBBs, you have Oliver Wyman, ADL, all the top firms they do hire. From finance side, you have a lot of venture capital firm, private equity firm, IB firm, people getting into IB as well. So it's not like a consulting school like INSEAD. It's a mix. I mean, even though they give a lot of preference to consulting, you can find people getting into a lot of finance job as well.
All right, thank you.
Even-
Karthik, I hope that
I mean,
answers your question.
apart from finance, you can get into luxury. There are a lot of people who are aspiring to get into luxury, people who have come from top luxury brands as well. So that is something which you can find at HEC.
All right. All right. So next question is from Sumit. Sumit, I would like to invite you to ask this question if you're there. You can maybe switch on your camera so that we can interact.
Yeah, sorry, I think there is certain issue with my camera. Probably I have
No
not
worries.
given
No
access,
worries.
so I can speak.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I belong to a pharmaceutical background basically, and I did my Master of Public Health. And since last 7 years, 7.5 years, I am working from a non-profit firm. So I just wanted to like I am hearing that there are a lot of consulting firm and finance related firms. So I just wanted to know the scope related to social impact, means what are the scope for us, and if we wanted to apply, what are, because I wanted to remain on same side even after completing my MBA. So what are scope for people like us?
Swagat, Anushree. If any one of you want to take it.
I mean, yes, I can touch upon it. See, I think it has to be very clear as to how this MBA is going to help you get to that post MBA goal. Because if you still want to remain in social impact, which is incredible, which is fine, but how is an HEC or an ESA,
So
and do you know any alumni? Do you, yeah.
I can give an example, clear cut two example. One is for basically I have worked both of them. One is the country director of Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. That's one part. And currently I'm on implementation side, and I wanted to go on the other side of table, which is basically donor side or donor management basically. So it helped me by moving into the other side of table. And the second thing, like I'm working with John Hopkins University Foundation. So it helped me to attain a top level position or leadership position, like operations at country level, or just to work for the donor side or donor management part. So
Right.
that's the pathway which
Right.
I have created
No.
for myself.
Okay. No, that's fine. That's absolutely cool. Like in line with why you want to do this MBA. But I think the idea is to be able to identify that why, like if you're pitching yourself the ESA, the why ESA? Do you know an alumni who has made this change, or what is the ESA really offering you that will help you get to the donor side of it, other than skill set? Because for skill set, it's very clear. Maybe donor management is, I think it's more to do with the money, right? Like it's end of the day, you're studying plenty of finance subjects within the MBA. But then that's the reason that doesn't sell very well, to be very honest. It's just that, okay, I'm going to learn and then come back to my job and do this. So you have to give them something additional that they really buy your story, that because it is going to be you networking, very honestly, if you're in one of these schools, it is going to be your largest asset for your job is going to be your network. So either you have to find somebody who ends up coming from donor management, or know somebody who ends up coming from this side of the world, or it is always something that you end up networking when you are in the school and then you get this job. So essentially for school, they will be able to take you, provided you give them a reason that you have a better reason to go to that school than they have it to take you. Because of course you don't fit the conventional bill of a profile, but then that doesn't matter. Like Swagat said, you'll find coach, you'll find an entrepreneur, you'll find so many different kind of profiles that you cannot possibly imagine. So the scope, I don't think, I'm not in the field, neither do I know a lot of people in the field, but can you make something out of it? Yes, there are, maybe you will change, and maybe you would want to work with the World Bank. There's a lot of scope in social impact there as well. Maybe you will change and you will want to work with another organization. So all these ideas and networks, all of this is going to start opening up once you're in the school. So as of now, you need to think about, if you're clear, if you're very confident that, no, I'm going to be in donor management, you will find a way. You will find a way, because the school will offer you either a 160 or a batch of 400 or a batch of 800. And if these are the top minds across the globe, 100% you will find a way. But you need to know that why the school makes sense for you, because it's an unconventional profile.
Yeah, so just have a follow-up question. I have came across multiple profile, and with some of them I have worked directly, who belongs to core MBA background and then came into social impact side. One of them is already alumni of HEC, and he was my skip manager, and currently he's associated with Pyramid Foundation. So when I have to write my story, like I have multiple stories, so how to put in order to write when I'm writing my essay for the university or schools?
I think maybe for this is a larger, longer conversation. I'm sure Ashwini is smiling because of that. But sure,
so if you have any quick take, you go ahead. It might help him. But yeah, Sumit, I think your question would require some interaction and a little more deep diving, before somebody can really guide you on those paths. And I would really request you to try out the profile evaluation call. You can talk to Anushri, you can talk to any other of our profile experts, and get a better insight. But yeah, in the meanwhile, Swagat, if you have any input, please go ahead.
So regarding the story that you mentioned in your application, for like Anushri mentioned, the admission committee needs to buy that in, whether what you have done in your pre-MBA phase versus what you're aspiring to get into, whether there is a coherence between that. If that is there, then you're done. I mean, you don't need anything else apart from this. The admission committee needs to buy in that. It's not like you're mentioning something which is very, very different from what you have done earlier, or which the school will not help you achieve that. If
Right.
that is something, then that's not going to help you a lot.
Thanks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sumit. I hope that helps. We have a next question from Aloysius. If you're available, you can go ahead and ask your question. Or I can read it out for you. So, Swagat, actually, the question is, what would be the ideal range of metrics, such as experience, education, qualification, CGPA, and background? So, is there a range? Is there an ideal number that everybody is looking for? What's your take?
Yeah, on the official website, you can see that for HEC itself, the average work experience is slightly higher than what the US schools expect. It's around 6 years, but that goes without saying. Like, you have people with 15 years of work experience. At the same time, you have a lot of people with 4 years of work experience. So don't look at those averages and all. I mean, if you have that right amount of experience and you're confident that you already have that experience to do that MBA, go for it. Don't think about the averages and all those things. At the same time, if you look at the average GMAT score, since European schools are very, very diverse, you have people from number of nationality, 60, 50 odd nationality coming in. You have people with a relatively lower GMAT score coming in from those part of the world where it's not very, very academically sound, versus you have people from India where people tend to get, we have people with 780, 770 scores as well. So that's what the average tends to come down, because you have people from different geographies out there in European school versus a US school out there. But from experience standpoint, like I pointed out, I mean, they look for diversity. We have people from all kind of background. I mean, there's no, if you have strong brand associated with your profile, it helps you, but that's not the only way to get into these schools. You can, what matters is like whether you have that coherence in your application itself.
All right. Thank you, Swagat. Gayatri, would you like to go ahead and ask your question?
Yeah. Hi everyone. Like, first of all, thanks a lot for having this session. And yeah, I'm Gayatri. I'm a chartered accountant and I'm already working in the management consulting space. And post MBA, I'd like to pivot to investment banking kind of roles and niche private equity, venture capital, that kind of roles. So I'm looking to build my extracurriculars at this point to make my profile more comprehensive. So I was just looking for your inputs on that. Like, how do I like make it more robust? I've heard that volunteering experience kind of helps, but I'm not really sure again, because like almost everyone does that. So just looking for your inputs in this.
Actually, do you want to take it?
Can take that. Yeah, I could take that. Okay, so there are two things to look at this. Okay, like, don't do something that everybody does. Number one rule, just for the sake of it. Then I think the whole idea of putting up a unique application dies out, right?
Right.
But now, but then can you change that? The other side of it is like, can I change the things I have done? No, I have been, let's say I was on the medium to high range, like throughout my life, I would say, in terms of co-curricular. But I can't go back 10 years and change that I learned a form of dance. But what I can do is use it to my strength. That what have I done? Because all they want to know is not that you've played 10 sports. They don't want to know. They don't care about you playing 10 sports. They want to know that one thing you did and how passionate were you? How much did you follow it up? They don't care about, trust me, like, on the other side, even I used to feel, oh my God, like I don't have much volunteering experience. But I realized that no, in some time, there was a thing I was doing in the school. It's called the IAYP. And like, I think every school used to do this. And I did a little bit of volunteering experience as a part of it. Then I did a little more during my time as an HR. And, I was like, all these experiences count for them. Then if I've done something, I might as well put it, because don't be ashamed to put something you've done, even if it isn't in the most professional manner. You might not have done, I don't know, like 2 years of volunteering every day. That doesn't count. But they really need to see, if you are a dancer, like how much passion did you have and how much did you follow it up? If you are a debater, and I debate, so like how much did you put in to follow it up? they also know that it is impossible if you're a management consultant that you have time to do anything else after
Right.
this. They're aware of that. Yes. But it is necessary through that journey. They need to see how committed you were to your co-curriculum. That are you literally just doing your job right now? Or are you doing something that kind of takes you back? Like even if it is, I don't know, helping your family on a family business. Like I had one of my mother has a boutique and I was kind of actually helping her. So I was like, I was in two minds that should I put this or should I not? But I'm like, no, I think it's taking my time and brain, so I should put it. So, and the way you put it really changes the story. It really changes it. If I just go ahead and say that I assisted my mother in her business versus that I improved her, digital architecture and I improved the business and I saw sales going up by 23% and I put numbers there, then it makes a lot of sense for them. Because these schools still understand a lot of business jargon. They want you to use that, they want to know that, but they also need you to make sense of it. So volunteering experience, no, don't do it for the sake of it. If you're genuinely interested and you can follow it up, do it. The only way to improve it right now, I don't know about your profile, so happy to get in touch separately. I think we'll post it, but the idea is to be able to improve on what you already have. They build on what you already have. So I think that's the main thing.
Got it.
Just
Got it.
adding some-
Thanks for that. And just a little thing. I mean, so if I do have like a couple of hobbies, but then it's not really quantifiable, right? Like for example, if you love playing sports, I mean, not everyone is a state level player, right? Like for example, I love to paint, but I do it for my own self, and just because I feel happy doing it, not because it actually adds value to others or like anything of that sort. So like, how do I quantify the extracurriculars or like all of this basically?
I think, I mean, I don't know, but if it's like, I don't know if I'm presumptuous of like just going ahead and saying you must have taken part in some competition, or maybe you would have done something. Maybe you would have taught some kids how to paint, and that's worth it. That it's worth mentioning it. Like, I don't know I don't know how would I have quantified dance, but it mattered to them. I've learned two forms of art. I never really ended up getting a certification because some weird reason, but I've learned a dance over more than a decade. I'm a trained classical dancer. The only way I could put it is like the kind of scale of audience I've performed in front of, and they bought it. They spoke to me about it. I still get asked about my dance in my consulting interviews, so you can imagine the impact it has. And trust me, it's not just now, it will be later also. When you go ahead and apply to jobs, it is that additional interest part that all they see in the CV. Rest of it is a 30-second browse. They will spend a minute there if it's worth it, because it is that important.
Right, right. Got it.
Swagat, you want to share something?
Yes. So one thing is like don't do anything just for the sake of the application. I mean, a lot of people tend to put NGO experience, and these are very, very common. And that is not something which differentiates you, because every applicant out there is putting that NGO experience. They understand that they're putting it. A lot of people are putting it for the sake of application, and that comes out in the application itself. Even if your hobbies are very, very small, still put it in a way that shows your passion for that particular thing, and that will reflect in your application as well.
Right, right. Got it. Thank you. Thanks for that.
All right. So we have a next question from Tesu Gupta. Tesu, if you're available, I would invite you to come on camera and maybe ask your
Uh,
questions.
yeah, hi, my name is Tesu and I'm from Hyderabad. I'm a footwear designer and I want to apply to both HSC and ESA. I'm looking into getting into the luxury sector. My question was regarding connecting with alumni and AdCom. So, I mean, generally you reach out to them on LinkedIn and then you ask them a few questions, introduce yourself and stuff like that. But I wanted to know beyond that, how do you make like a meaningful connection with them? Do you have any tips for that?
I can touch upon this a little bit. I think this is something you learn. Like this learning doesn't stop as to how to not be annoying, because right now you're getting in touch for getting into school, then you will get in touch for getting into jobs. And I think the best way is to definitely not just, firstly, never send a LinkedIn request without a note. if people don't understand that. If don't just add people because they are in your school. They do not owe you anything. You are literally requesting them for their time, and they are busy, and they are busy. So if they take time to respond, if they are responding, that it itself, it is a big deal that they're taking out time to respond to you. So I think first thing is never send a LinkedIn request without a note. Second, if a meaningful connection is always when you have studied their profile, you have studied their journey, which is potentially through LinkedIn, and unless they're very famous in the school and they've been published somewhere, or they're like a little more involved in school activities. So you study their profile, and it's important. Everybody loves a good personal question. This is a tip for everybody loves a good personal question. If you ask them something that how did you make this jump and how did this help you get into ESA, they will take out that 2 minutes to answer that, because it kind of takes them back to their journey. So I think the two things: one, never send a LinkedIn request without just without a note. Use those 200 characters very well. And second is be more personal. People underestimate how a personal question can really help you strike a connection. But I think be more personal even when you're asking something about their professional journey, to how they got into the school. I would say these two things at this stage.
Just adding on to what Anushri already said, one thing is like before connecting with them, before asking them any question, do your own research first, because there are some basic questions which people tend to ask the alums, which you can get in by doing a simple Google search as well. So do that research from your end, and then connect with them, ask them the question. Second thing which Anushri pointed out is like ask them about their experience. Everybody likes to talk about their own experience, which makes it very easy for you to have that connection in the first place. So yeah, look at these two things. One, do your research. Second, ask them about their experience as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering my question.
I hope that helps, Isu. All right, we would take questions from Sharanya Roy. Sharanya, if you're available, I would invite you to be on camera and go ahead and ask your question. Okay. All right, moving to Rahul. Rahul, are you available? Rahul Gautam.
Hi, Sharni, this side.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, like, in regards to whether to go for an MBA in finance or an MSc in finance with, HEC if I'm looking for. And also along with that, I would like to know, like, if I'm looking to do my master's or MBA in Europe, especially in Spain or in France, like how much does the local language, awareness, like as per the Delhi or the Delft pattern, is required to blend with the cultural norms and to reach out to people in terms of building visibility in terms of work and life beyond work as well.
Yeah, I can probably take that question. So regarding MBA or MS, so these are that depends on what you want out after passing out from that course. I mean, what you want out of your life. So that is pretty much dependent, because if you look at MS versus MBA in a European school, typically in a MS the average work experience is relatively lesser in comparison to a MBA. And when I talk about MBA, it's not like MBA in finance. Those are general MBAs. You tend to take a specialization. You can do a specialization in finance, but that does not mean that if you if you do a specialization in strategy, you can't get into a finance job. So those are general MBAs. You can typically, that opens up numerous paths for you. You can get into any field. Versus if you do a MS in finance, then your scope is limited. You tend to get into finance companies only, because if you have that in mind that you want to get into finance only, then MS makes a lot of sense. Then because you tend to spend lesser, the money that you spend is not very high as an MBA, but the opportunities are also limited in that sense. The salaries that you get post MBA versus post MS from HEC, let's say, that varies a lot.
In terms of the role diversity that I would be hitting at or signaling towards the market, will that be making a difference with an MBA or an MSc in finance?
It depends. I mean, in some of the companies, they tend to give in the role, the kind of role that they offer a MBA is different from what they offer a MS. person doing a MS degree. So that differs company to company basis actually. But yeah, generally speaking, like MBAs tend to get a different role versus what the role that you get post MS in finance from HEC.
Okay. And how about the language and the culture? Like, how much of an awareness do you need to have on a French or Spanish, if I have to talk about?
To survive in the school, since these are global schools, you don't need to know a lot of French to be in the school itself. In fact, you don't need to know French at all. But in order to get a job in, let's say, France, a lot of companies do require French. They want you to have at least that B1, B2, C1 certification in French. So if you want to solely work in, let's say, Paris or let's say any other place in France, then probably learning that language makes a lot of sense. But let's say post MBA or post MS from HEC, you want to work somewhere abroad, somewhere else, like Middle East, or let's say you want to work in Amsterdam, you want to work in Belgium, you don't require any local language in those places. So it depends where you want to work post these degrees.
And lastly, to both of you, I would like to ask that if you could highlight some of the key challenges that you guys faced or your, close pals faced out there, and how did you guys overcome, or what are the measures you took to overcome them? Like, if you could throw some light on that.
By challenges, you meant like when you go into the MBA, those challenges?
Yeah,
didn't get
I
the
mean to say
question.
challenges as in while pursuing the academic or completing and moving into a role.
Yeah.
How does it shape?
I think the biggest lesson you learn is how to prioritize, because you will always at all points of time have 50 things to do. So if that is a challenge as well as a lesson well learned, but also it's a life lesson. Like I think at never in your life, I can speak for ESA for sure, that I am sure at no point in my life am I going to have that much work. Even if I am drowning in consulting work, I'm sure it's not going to be the 50 different things that I had to do, and still go and be able to socialize and go out and make friends, and because all of this is important. So I think the biggest challenge was to be able to realize and keep myself grounded that I'm here for a reason. Don't forget that reason, but also navigate the process with a smile, because it is going to be hard at some point. It is going to be hard. So it's better you know that so that you're ready for it. So I think the challenge is to be able to prioritize. Your personal life does take a little bit of a backseat, but again, you need to learn the art of balance to understand that at that point of time, for those few months of the first term, what do you need to? Why do you get here? Like, what did you give up to get here? So I think it's always it's a game of balance. The people who win are the people who have done that very tactfully. When I say win, they just win this, overcoming this challenge sooner than the others. But the good part about that is that you will see 300 other people also in the same boat. You're all going through the same thing. So that just makes it easier, because you know that, oh, wow, like they're like just same people like me from different cultures, different people. They're all feeling the same thing. So I think that's the biggest challenge, to be able to prioritize really efficiently.
And did you need to learn Catalan or Spanish how to be there in Barcelona?
No, it's a beautiful language. You should learn it. I learned it for like the first 20 days. I can get my way around in every place. I can get myself food. I can get myself supermarket stuff. So, but people do it. So the school offers you to continue learning. There are some superstars in the school who do it and do consulting at the same time. They're learning Spanish, doing places, and they're doing consulting. But then there are some people who stop it for a bit. They do a first few terms and then they restart Spanish. So the school continuously offers you Catalan. No, it's just Spanish. So you have to learn Spanish, but you can get your way around it. You will be keen to learn it when you're there, because you would want to have those few phrases to be able to get your way in most of the evenings or most of the things, the daily things you need to do at least. So, but yeah, it's not a necessity. Like Swagat said, it's a global school, so nobody expects you to speak Spanish. But do you not? If the second highest batch of people are Indians in ESA, but the first batch are Spanish-speaking people. So yes, if you come suddenly in a group when you're 5 Indians are standing, they will speak a little Hindi, right? It's common. So yes, when you stand in group of five Spanish-speaking country people, they will speak in Spanish. That can get annoying a little bit sometimes, but the school is trying its always its best. Like I said, like it's always very focused on diversity and inclusion, and they're trying its best that people are also aware that when you're standing right in front of them, they will start speaking in English. So
Does
that's
it
your
makes a
extent of the
difference?
challenge, but it's really not a challenge.
Does it makes a difference in case if you
Sorry?
have a dearth? Does it makes a difference in case if you have a language dearth, like if you're not proficient up to that standard to reach out to, the recruiters or to build the community network since the native language? I do understand it's an international program. However, in spite of
Yeah.
that, if you are losing out some, like, let's say, if I have to talk about Spain, like Santander or BBA, these are the very big, Spanish banking brands, Caixa. So you tend to lose out because you're just, lagging with the communication.
But then that's very clear for you, right? If you want to work for a Caixa, if you want to work for a Papadel or any of this, then you are already going there with the goal to work in a Spanish bank in a Spanish country. So I think you should start learning the language way before you go to the school. So that's like if you are so sure that you want to be there, then it's only in your favor that you learn the language because they are going to continue speaking their language. Caixa is not a global bank. It's a standard. It probably has global services, but it's still a bank in India. If you come to, I'm from Calcutta. If you come to Calcutta and you enter an HSBC, they speak
I'm
in
from Calcutta
Bengali,
as well.
not even English because. Oh, good. So I'm sitting in Calcutta right now and actually at an event of HSBC, and you barely hear people speak, and it's in UK and HSBC event, and you barely hear people speaking in English. People from UK are also speaking in Bengali. So in that case, I think it's important that you learn the language if you're so sure that you want to work for a Spanish bank. But if not, you're not going to lose out any recruiter opportunity because of not knowing the language. Because then that means those jobs are not for you who only speak Spanish inside the office. You're going to work for a more global company.
See, on a realistic level, since I was working in a bank that is based out of Australia, and I'm looking to go for a business program or a finance-based program out in the Europe. So, like, let's say if it would have been in Paris also, I would have targeted like SocGen or like Credit Agricole or these kind of, so like the local brands I would look to apply for. That would make more of a sense because I've done the business program from there. But at the same time, since I'm not aware of how much of the local language plays a role for those kind of profiles, so my question was from that. Got it.
Thank you. I hope you were able to answer your questions. If you still have some questions, some follow-up questions, I
No,
will
I'm
really
done.
request you
Thank you,
to.
Ashwini. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi,
Hi.
before you move ahead, I think I have a hard stop at 10, so I have to leave now because the call was there. I'm sure that people have a lot of questions. Feel free to get in touch with me. Feel free to book a call, and I'm happy to assist with as many questions as you have.
Absolutely. Thank you so much,
email.
Anushri, for being here. I think it was
The
very
team has
insightful.
shared it already. Yes. Happy to help. Good luck, everyone who is applying, and happy to help. Anything more about ESA you want to know, drop me a note. I'm happy to answer your questions. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ashwini. Thanks for this. Okay. Bye.
So we're going to take a couple of more questions. Swagat, I think the next question is from Ishan. And Ishan wants to know that can you please comment on HEC Paris January versus August intake? Like what pros and cons of applying for January intake instead of September?
Yeah, so in fact, you do not miss out a lot if you apply for Jan intake. I'll tell you where the difference lies. One first thing is like the batch size, which is around 160 for September and 80, 90 odd for Jan. It's a smaller batch size again. Second, let's say you start in September, your internship ideally starts next year in June timeline. So you get additional time for your internship itself. So you are well prepared for your internship program. Then coming in Jan, it becomes too hectic applying for internship. So that's where you get that additional 3-4 months. Another from academic standpoint, where it is different is the term 3 and term 4, which is basically switched for Jan intake versus September intake. In September intake, in term 4, you go for exchange. In term 3, you can take any special, let's say you can take any electives or you can do certification, which is the other way around for Jan intake. So it's the process itself is same. The entire curriculum is same. Where you actually miss out is like the one smaller batch size in Jan intake versus September intake. Second, you get some additional time preparing for that internship program. Let's say in our case, I joined in September. We got that additional time applying to some of the companies for internship programs, which you tend to miss out if you join in Jan. You can apply on your own, but you're not getting that help because you have not joined the school in the first place till Jan. So that's something that's a small difference, I would say.
All right. So we have a next question from Hardik. We also have a raised hand from Rahul. If Rahul, if you're there, you can ask your question.
Yeah, hi. Sorry, I'm driving a little bit, but yeah. So hi, Shashwini. Hi, Swagat. Thank you for letting me ask these questions. I come from a diverse background. I have a 9+ years of experience, and I've been into construction and interiors is my major business since 2016, and I've been involved in co-founding an NGO. I devised the frameworks for that. And then I let it be handled like my other co. And I also have experience with operations as well as some experience with product backend process management, product development. So I am currently interested. My long-term goal is basically to uh, one second.
Sorry, Rahul, can you hear us?
I want to explore that also. And I have not given my GMAT as of yet, but I'm planning to give it somewhere between February, mid to end of February, with the proper preparation. And would I be eligible for GMAT waivers? And should I apply on the basis of GMAT waiver or not? This is a first question. Like schools, which school are suitable for me in Europe? I am not restricted by geographic location, so I'm open to any location because I want to enhance my skills and yeah, gain more knowledge on all the subjects, majorly product, strategy, and finance. And obviously, there would be operations, global sustainability, and all the things. But yeah, if you could tell me, if you could guide me which school I should apply
Swagat,
to.
do you have a take on this?
Yes. So first thing, like you pointed out, you have nine years of experience already. That's quite a lot. So if you look at schools in US versus schools in Europe, European schools tend to have they tend to prefer people with higher work experience versus a US school. So I would say Europe makes a lot of sense, but at the same time, it depends on what you want to do post your MBA. Now talking about GMAT waiver, the top European schools they don't give GMAT waivers. Some schools in US they are still giving waiver because of after COVID they started giving waivers and they're still giving it. If for that you need to fill in a short application. If it gets approved, they tend to give you. But European school they'll not give you a GMAT waiver for sure. But at the same time, you have a lot of time because if you look at HEC, if you look at Cambridge and some of the other schools as well, they have even INSEAD, they have a rolling deadline. So you can so every month they have a deadline. So but I would still advise you to apply in that initial phase rather than waiting for that those last few months to apply to these schools because so we Indians coming from that overrepresented community, a lot of Indian tend to apply. I mean, if they feel that quota of Indians coming into that school, they'll not take any more Indian for that cohort for that intake. So I would still advise you to apply.
Can I apply without the GMAT and submit the GMAT later on? Because many consultants that I've talked to said that you cannot apply without the GMAT score beforehand. So that is.
I would advise you to give the GMAT once. If the score is, let's say, it's not up to the mark for the school, they'll get back to you. If your profile is good, if your essays looks good, and they'll get back to you, they'll tell you that hey, everything looks good, just that you need to improve your GMAT score. That's what they get back to you and tell you. If you get this much score, we give you an interview invite, and that's what HEC has done for few folks as well.
So what I understand is I should give GMAT
Yes.
as soon as possible and then apply, right?
Yeah. I would advise
Because
that.
I haven't prepared. I'm yet to prepare, and it's been 10 years for me that I had any like relation with. But in business, it is applicable, but not to that extent. Uh, so GMAT waiver not applicable in Europe. Okay, and okay. So any particular school that you could guide me, like if I should apply, because I want to get into the tech side.
So see, all these schools in European schools are very, very diverse. I mean, it's not like INSEAD is little high on consulting. ESA also they're known for consulting. But if you look at HEC, if you look at LBS is known for finance, but at the same time they offer diverse roles. I mean, if you tend to apply to any of the top schools, what you want, you have n number of opportunities, number of alumni working in that space. You'll get alums working in that space. That should not be an issue at all.
All right. I hope now that helps you. Swagat will
Thank
take
you.
one more question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
From Radhika Agarwal, she asks, please shed some light on HEC Paris interview. What sort of questions are asked? Is it more technical or general?
Well, it depends. I mean, the interview process is little unique. You have two alumni that interview that you have with alums. It depends on who is your interviewer. In my case, one was a Indian Army veteran. Second one was a French lady who was a CEO of a company. So both the interviews are very, very different. In the first case, with the interview that happened with the French lady, it was at ease. I mean, very, very jovial interviewer. We went through the presentation in the first 10 minutes. Then she asked me a lot of questions around why did I choose that particular topic. She wanted to check my passion towards that topic. Then next we jumped into like what I want to do post MBA, and why did I choose HEC versus other schools in Europe, or let's say US business schools. So some generic questions, but a lot of questions around your presentation. Why did you choose that topic? Why MBA at that particular stage? Why did I opt for MBA at that particular stage? Why not before? Why not few years down the lane? So those are some of the questions which you can expect. But yeah, sometimes, I mean, usually the interviews are relatively chilled out, but it depends on the alum who is taking your interview.
So it's general, but more towards understanding you as a profile.
Yes, your profile, your motivation around that.
All right. All right. On that note, we will wrap the session here. Swagat, I would really like to thank you for spending the time today, and I hope for our audiences it has been helpful and insightful. Uh, I would also request everyone, whose questions we could not answer, or if you still have some more questions as a follow-up, please feel free to reach out. You can expect an email from our valuation team, and you can just respond back on that email, or alternatively, you can register for one of our profile building calls. You can also request to do it with Swagat or Anushree or anybody if you're open to. And I wish you all the very best in your application journey. I think this is the last session we're conducting this year. So I want to wish all of you a happy new year in advance as well. And I hope you guys get to your goals in the next year.
Thanks a lot for having me here. All the very best. If you guys have any further questions, feel free to reach out.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening. Take care. Good night.